Hi everyone, I'm Rinsey and this is Rinsey Reads. There were a couple videos that were happening where people were talking about their pet peeves and some of their book pet peeves and also some general pet peeves. But while I was watching all of these videos, I realized that I'm kind of a bad book owner. The first reason why I'm kind of a bad book owner is I write in my books. I mean, it's not the worst offense that there is when it comes to owning a book, but there are so many people out there who prefer to keep their books as like pristine and clean and as much like brand new as possible, which isn't really me. I have no problem writing in books, especially if I find a book really interesting and engaging. I love underlining my favorite passages or scribbling down a quick thought or even just writing a little smiley face in the margin if it makes me smile. Another thing is that I have no problem dog-earing books. I talked about this a little bit in the bookmark tag whenever I did that a while ago. I don't really use normal bookmarks. I usually lose my bookmarks, so I never buy them for myself, so I usually just use like random scraps of paper or index cards or just anything I can grab to stick in my book. But sometimes when I finish a book, I'll just grab one and throw it in my purse when I'm going out for the day, and then I'll find a few minutes to be able to read, and I'll just be reading, and then I'll have to stop eventually and I have nothing on me that I can use as a bookmark, so I end up just dog-earing my pages. Some people find that to be like a cardinal offense when it comes to reading books. You're ruining the pages, but I don't really think that much about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with a book with a little wear and tear. It shows that someone has actually read the books. The next thing that kind of goes along in a similar vein is the fact that I tend to break book spines quite a bit. I don't do it on all of my books. I only do it in my mass market paperback, so like the shorter, chunkier ones, and especially if they're really thick, I tend to purposely break the spines. I know that's actually really bad for the book and it actually might make the book fall apart faster, but there's two reasons why I do this. The first reason is because it's easier to read when it's like open wider. A lot of the books are really thick, so if you only open it like this much, it gets really awkward to read the words when they get closer to the spine. So I'll purposely just break it. It also feels kind of good when you break it. I don't know why, but I like that sensation of breaking a spine. Sorry. And the other reason why is I kind of like how books look when they have a broken spine. I have a couple books on my shelves where I broke the spine quite a bit, and so there are a lot of bends and cracks in it when you look at it on my shelves, and I kind of like that about the book. It makes it look well loved. I think a lot of times, and I do this too, we sort of fetishize books and we just admire it on a superficial level, so we just love how a book looks or how a book smells, but I mean the real worth of a book is the words and the story on the inside, and I'm sure that could be some deep metaphor for humans and something, but I'm not gonna go there. But I really think that the most important part of a book is the story and the words and the feelings that are held within a book. While I do love beautiful books and I love owning beautiful covers and things like that, that isn't the number one reason why I buy books. The reason why I buy books is because I love to read books, and so I kind of like the idea of seeing a book that is slightly more worn out than the rest because it's been read and enjoyed so many times. But I will admit sometimes I am not too careful with my books. During like my summer breaks or spring breaks and things like that when I was in school, I would just like read for an entire day, and so when it came time for me to eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, I would take my book with me to the table, and then almost every time I would read at the table I would spill food on my book. Now I have gotten better at this, but that is mainly because I have just learned my lesson and stopped reading while eating. But I used to always like spill food on my books, which was really bad, and there was even one time when my friend lent me a book and I spilled soup on the book, so like all of the pages were completely soaked. Of course I bought a new copy, but I still felt really horrible, and so that is definitely one habit that I do not recommend unless you are a lot more careful than I am. Another thing I do is I judge books by their covers all the time. While I was in like junior high, high school, college, when I was buying books, I didn't really have a way to find out new books or anything like that, so I would just walk into a bookstore and walk around until something caught my eye. In order for something to catch my eye, I have to like the cover. And there are certain covers that I love and certain covers that I hate, so if it's a cover that I do not like, I probably would not pick it up, and then I wouldn't know whether or not I would actually like the book. I do feel like the majority of people do judge books by their covers. I also feel like there isn't too much wrong with that, just because books are designed specifically to target certain markets, and certain markets like certain things on their covers, or you know, if you pick up a book you can tell if this is going to be a crime novel or a science fiction novel. There are ways to express certain genres and certain ideas about a book with its cover. That being said, I also think it's up to us just to not only be swayed by that. Like, I don't just pick up a book and look at the cover and walk out. I mean, I read the back or inside flap, I look it up on Goodreads and see what other people are saying about it. While I do judge books by their cover, they're not the only way I judge books, so I suppose that's my justification for it. And my last one is that I don't organize my bookshelves whatsoever. I talked about this again in a different tag that I did a while ago, but my books aren't really organized by anything in particular. I have tried to keep like books by the same author or series together, but that doesn't always happen. Basically, my bookshelves are organized by date, so just whenever I get it, it'll go in the next available slot on my bookshelf. And that isn't even completely accurate, because I do rearrange my books sometimes again to keep books by same author series together. There is no way anyone would be able to look at my bookshelves and be able to find anything except like my Harry Potters, because it is very clearly a giant stack altogether. Even I have a difficulty sometimes finding the books that I want to grab or look at. Anytime people ask me for recommendations and they want to borrow a book, I'm like, sure, but you have to give me like 15 minutes or so, because I have to stare at every shelf and be like, what books are on this shelf? And then I have to do that for each and every shelf and figure out which books I want to give them. And so I basically have to go through all my shelves, and then I'll figure out which ones I'll actually recommend or give to my friend. I admit that this isn't the most effective way to organize my bookshelves, but I'm also kind of too lazy to change it. I have a general sense of where most of my books are, so if you looked at my Excel spreadsheet and was like, where's this book, I could at least tell you which one of the bookshelves it's on and a general idea of which shelf it should be on, as long as everything stays the same. Part of me does feel like if I did reorganize my bookshelf by like color or author, I wouldn't know where any of my books are. Then I'd be completely lost on finding my books. So yeah, those are all of my reasons why I'm a bad book owner. I put it in air quotes because these aren't really like horrible reasons. It's not like I throw these books into fires when I'm done or anything like that. But I know that these are a lot of bad habits that a lot of people find to be their pet peeves, so they probably would never want to like borrow my books or watch me read a book, because I would probably annoy them so much, or borrow any of their books because they would be afraid that I would ruin them. Feel free to leave any comments or video responses with your bad book habits. I'd love to see if you guys share any of the same habits I do, or if you guys have your own weird habits that you feel like other people would look down on you, so to speak, because of them. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.